Stop scrolling right now, because what I'm about to tell you isn't a coincidence, it's an intervention. If you're watching this, your spirit has already recognized the shift in the atmosphere before I even opened my mouth. You felt that sudden tightness in your chest, didn't you? That strange electric hum vibrating in your fingertips as you held your phone. That's not anxiety, and it's certainly not the algorithm. It's a spiritual emergency broadcast that has bypassed every logical firewall in your mind to reach you at this exact microsecond. Somewhere in the high-frequency realms, a clock just struck 0 while you were busy navigating the noise of your daily life in Chicago or Los Angeles. A heavy, ancient seal engraved with the name your soul answered to long before you ever stepped foot on American soil has just been shattered. Listen closely, because if you click away in the next 60 seconds, you'll be walking away from a transmission that has been trying to find its way to you for years. This isn't just another video meant to fill your feed. This is the answer to a specific, desperate question you asked when you were a 9-year-old kid staring out of a rain-streaked window in the suburbs, or perhaps while you were crying in your SUV in a grocery store parking lot just last Tuesday. You might have forgotten the prayer, but heaven kept the receipt. The universe has been waiting for you to be strong enough, seasoned enough, and weary enough of the illusions to finally hear the truth. Tonight, the silence of the last decade isn't just ending, it's being incinerated. You've spent so long feeling like an outsider in your own life, moving through the streets of New York or the quiet roads of the Midwest, feeling like you're tuned to a radio station that no one else can hear. You've been told you're too sensitive, too intense, or just plain off. But the truth is, you aren't broken. You are assigned, right now, at exactly 11:47 p.m. in the spiritual dimension. Just 13 minutes before a divine midnight, the Holy Spirit has intercepted your scrolling. It has redirected your attention and positioned you right here, right now, because what is inside that broken seal cannot wait until the sun rises over the Atlantic. This is your wake-up call, your activation, and your official notice that the period of hiding is over. I need to warn you, though what I'm about to reveal will completely flip the script on everything you thought you knew about your suffering. You've been asking, why me, while the universe was saying, because of you. If you want to keep living the comfortable lie, if you want to keep believing that your pain was just bad luck or a cosmic mistake, then leave now. Go back to the mindless loops and the surface-level noise. But if you're still here, it means you've been cleared for the download. Your heart rate is climbing because your DNA recognizes this frequency. You are part of a specific collective, the chosen ones, who are being activated across the states to hold a frequency this world desperately needs. You've been through the fire, haven't you? You've dealt with the spiritual gaslighting of a society that tells you your intuition is just imagination. You've seen the signs, the 333 on the digital clock, the same phrase repeated by 3 different strangers in a coffee shop in Seattle. The vivid dreams that feel more like memories than fantasies. You thought you were losing your mind, but you were actually finding your power. Every betrayal you've endured, every job you lost, and every relationship that crumbled wasn't a setback. It was a demolition of the old version of you to make room for the transmitter you were born to be. Heaven has a file on you. It doesn't use your social security number or your credit score. It uses the name spoken over your soul before the foundations of the world were laid. And here is the secret they never taught you in those Sunday school classes. In small-town America, that file wasn't locked by a distant, demanding God. It was locked by you. Before you ever took your first breath, before you ever felt the humidity of a southern summer or the bite of a New England winter, you stood in the courts of the infinite and you made a demand. You said, "Do not let me remember who I am too early. Hide the truth from me until I have been tested by the fire. Wait until I'm 100% ready to carry the weight of this glory. Because if I know my power before I've learned discernment, I'll self-destruct." Well, look at the calendar. Look at the clock. That pre-birth timer you set just hit 0. The restlessness you've been feeling for the past 48 hours, that feeling like you're standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting for the wind to catch you, that is the signal. You are being called out of the shadows and into a theater of operation that spans both the physical and the spiritual. You aren't just a citizen of a country, you are a diplomat of a kingdom. And as a diplomat, you are about to be handed your new credentials, your new orders, and a roadmap for the next 40 days that will make your past life look like a black and white movie. But before you can step into that future, we have to address the why. Why the delay? Why the years of feeling like you were shouting into a void while everyone else seemed to have it figured out? Why did the universe let you walk through the valley of the shadow for so long without a flashlight? The answers are buried deep within that file that just cracked open tonight, and they are much more tactical than you think. You weren't being ignored, you were being camouflaged. You were being kept in a spiritual witness protection program for your own safety, hidden from the enemies of your destiny until your internal strength matched the external mission. As the seal continues to break and the light from that file begins to illuminate your current situation, you're going to realize that the silence of God was actually the highest form of protection. But the protection phase is over, and the activation phase has begun. The information you're about to receive isn't just for your inspiration, it's for your transformation. We are moving past the why and into the how. Because to truly understand your mission, you first have to understand the specific legalities of how you were hidden in the first place, and why your own soul demanded this period of darkness. Stay with me, because as we move forward, I'm going to show you exactly what was written in that pre-birth contract, and why the Midnight Protocol is the only way for you to claim the inheritance that has been sitting in a celestial vault with your name on it for decades. You've spent years wondering why the heavens seem to have a "Do Not Disturb" sign hanging on the door every time you cried out for help. You've sat in your apartment in Brooklyn or a quiet porch in Georgia, feeling like a ghost in your own life, asking why a supposedly loving universe would let you struggle through so much isolation. But here is the revelation that is going to shake the very ground you stand on. That silence. It wasn't abandonment, it was a strategic blackout that you, yes, the higher version of you personally ordered before you ever stepped into this 3D reality. Imagine for a second a high-security vault in the spiritual heart of Washington, D.C., but on a cosmic scale. Inside that vault is a file. It's not labeled with your social security number or your American name. It's marked with a celestial frequency that only you possess. This is your pre-birth blueprint. Most people think God holds the keys to their destiny, but the truth is much more radical. Before you were born, before you ever felt the cold of a Chicago winter or the humidity of a Texas summer, you stood in the Hall of Records. You looked at the massive mission you were about to undertake, a mission to break generational curses, to shift the frequency of this planet, to be a light in a very dark time. And you realized something critical. You realized that if you knew how powerful you were at age 5, or 15, or even 25, you would have tried to rush the process. You would have tried to fight battles you weren't armored for yet. So you made a legal request in the courts of heaven. You said, "Seal this, lock my memories, encrypt my power. Do not let me remember who I am until I have been dragged through the trenches, until I have learned the grit of survival, and until my nervous system is strong enough to carry the voltage of my true identity." The struggles you've been through, the bankruptcy in your 30s, the divorce that left you shattered, the long nights working a job that felt like a prison sentence, those weren't accidents. They were the training simulations you designed for yourself. You needed to learn the discernment of the desert before you could be trusted with the authority of the throne. In the American military, they don't give a soldier a loaded weapon and the keys to a fighter jet on day one. They send them to boot camp. They break them down so they can build them back up. They put them through hell so they can handle the pressure of the front lines. Your life has been one long, intense spiritual boot camp. That feeling of being different, that nagging sense that you were meant for something massive, even while you were scrubbing floors or staring at a flickering computer screen in an office cubicle that was the timer ticking away inside your DNA. You were a sleeper agent in your own life, hidden even from yourself so that the enemy of your destiny wouldn't see you coming. But look at the clock. The timer just hit 0. In the book of Revelation, there's a famous verse about someone knocking at the door. In our modern American ears, we imagine a gentle, polite tap, but the original language describes a military-style pounding. It's the sound of a rescue team breaching a door during an emergency. That's the restlessness you've been feeling for the past few weeks. That's why you can't sleep at 3 a.m. even when you're exhausted. That's why your heart skips a beat when you see certain patterns. It's heaven pounding on the door of your consciousness saying, "The encryption is over, the seal is cracking. Wake up, soldier. Your mission is live." You've been interpreting the silence as God ignoring you, but it was actually the ultimate form of protection. If you had accessed your full power while you were still seeking validation from people who didn't even like themselves, you would have wasted your oil on them. You had to be isolated. You had to be gaslit by the world so that you would stop looking for the truth in a newsfeed or a textbook and start looking for it in your spirit. Every betrayal by a friend in California, every cold shoulder from a family member in Ohio, it was all designed to detach you from the matrix. You were being deprogrammed from the American dream so you could wake up to the divine assignment. Think about the magnitude of this. You aren't just a person trying to survive a midlife crisis or a rough patch. You are a vessel of frequency, and a vessel that is going to hold 10,000 volts of spiritual power has to be forged in a very hot furnace. The pain wasn't meant to kill you, it was meant to kill the ego that would have gotten in the way of your mission. You had to learn how to stand alone in the dark, so that when you finally stand in the light, you won't be blinded by it. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the architect of your own evolution. And right now, as we speak, that file in heaven is downloading directly into your subconscious. You might not have the full picture yet, but the fog is starting to lift. You're starting to realize that you didn't fail in your 20s or 30s, you were simply in a holding pattern. You were being kept in a spiritual witness protection program until the coast was clear. And tonight, the signal has been given. The coast is clear. The command has authorized your activation. But as this new identity starts to surge through your veins, you're going to notice that the world starts reacting to you differently. You're going to notice that people who used to ignore you are suddenly agitated by your presence, and things that used to make sense suddenly feel like a foreign language. This is where it gets intense, because once the seal is broken, you can't go back to being the unaware version of yourself. You can't unknow the truth. You are now moving into the diagnostic phase, where we have to identify the specific damage that spiritual gaslighting has done to your psyche, so we can clear the path for your full power to manifest. Because the truth is, most of you are carrying a spiritual sickness that you don't even have a name for yet, and it's the only thing standing between you and the next 40 days of your transformation. Now, I need you to lean in, because we're entering the diagnostic room. Most of you watching this from your living rooms in Dallas or your high-rise apartments in Seattle aren't just tired, and you aren't just going through a phase. You are suffering from a very specific, targeted psychological warfare that our modern American culture doesn't have a name for, but I do. It's called spiritual gaslighting. And the moment I said those words, did you feel that sudden catch in your throat, that heavy, sinking sensation in your chest, as if someone finally turned on the lights in a room where you've been stumbling in the dark for a decade? That is your body's truth reflex. Spiritual gaslighting is what happens when you are a finely tuned instrument living in a world of static. It's what happens when you receive real-time intelligence from the divine vivid dreams, undeniable synchronicities, downloads that hit you while you're driving down the I-95, but everyone around you, from your coworkers to your own family, looks at you like you've lost your grip on reality. So what do? You do what any logical person would do. You start to doubt your own sanity. You start to wonder if maybe you're just desperate, maybe you're just lonely, or maybe that 38-year-old brain of yours is just misfiring under the stress of the 9-to-5 grind. Let me paint the picture of what this looks like in your life. It's 2:15 a.m. The blue light of your smartphone is the only thing illuminating your face as you scroll through forums and videos, searching for just one person who understands why you feel so electric. You're searching because earlier today, for the 6th time this week, you saw 1111 on the microwave, then on a license plate, then on a grocery receipt. You're searching because yesterday, a total stranger in a Starbucks turned to you and said the exact phrase your late grandmother used to say, a phrase no one else could possibly know. And yet, when you tried to tell your best friend about it over lunch, they just checked their watch and told you to get more sleep. That isolation is the residue of the gaslighting. It makes you feel like you're living on an island in the middle of a crowded city. You start asking the ugly questions you're too ashamed to say out loud. If I'm so special, why is my bank account overdrawn? If I'm chosen, why am I still sitting in this lonely apartment in Phoenix while everyone else is getting married and buying houses? Why does the chosen one have to worry about the rent? Listen to me, those thoughts aren't a lack of faith. They are the result of a system that tried to convince you that being chosen means being exempt from the human struggle. But that is the lie. The struggle wasn't proof that you weren't chosen. It was the intel gathering phase of your mission. You had to feel the weight of the matrix so you could learn how to break it. You had to experience the shakad, the Hebrew word for a soldier standing watch while the rest of the world sleeps. Your insomnia isn't a disorder. It's a shift on the spiritual guard tower. You are guarding frequencies that the people around you can't even perceive. But how do you know for sure? How do you distinguish between a midlife crisis and a divine activation? There are 7 symptoms of spiritual gaslighting that are specific to the American chosen. I want you to count how many of these have hit your life in the last 6 months. Symptom 1. You receive a clear green light to move, maybe to start a business or relocate to a new city. But the moment you take the first step, everything falls apart. You hit a brick wall, and the world tells you, "See, you heard wrong." But in reality, it was a test of your resolve. Symptom 2, pattern surveillance. You see numbers, names, and symbols so often, it feels like the universe is stalking you. When you mention it, people tell you you're overthinking it. Symptom 3, the deep knowing. You have a stubborn certainty about your future greatness that survives even when you have zero evidence in the physical world to back it up. Symptom 4, high-definition dreams. You aren't just dreaming, you're receiving blueprints, warnings, and coordinates. You wake up more exhausted than when you went to bed because you were working in the astral realm. Symptom 5, frequency alienation. You feel like you're tuned to a 5G frequency while everyone else is still on dial-up. You aren't better than them, you're just hearing a different broadcast. Symptom 6, the walking confessional. Strangers tell you their deepest secrets at the bus stop or the airport. You hold the space for people's pain without even trying. Symptom 7, the double life. You are exhausted from pretending to be normal at the office or the PTA meeting, while your spirit is screaming that you are meant for a cosmic war. If you've checked off 5 or more of these, you aren't just in the early stages, you are in a critical state of activation. You are exactly where Jeremiah was in the Bible when he told God, "I'm too young, I can't speak, I'm not ready." Jeremiah was gaslighting himself because his circumstances didn't match his calling, and God didn't argue with him. He just told him to shut up and move. Ready is a luxury you don't have. You don't get equipped before the mission. You get equipped during it. The file with your name on it, the one that cracked open tonight, isn't a map of your future. It's a witness report of what you've already achieved in the spirit. You aren't trying to become someone new. You are trying to remember who you already were before the world told you who you should be. You're not reading your destiny. You're remembering a past success. You've already won this battle in a higher dimension. You're just now catching up to the victory in this 3D American timeline. The reason you were gaslit, the reason you were made to feel crazy, is because if the enemy can make you doubt your eyes, he can make you miss your window. But tonight, that window is wide open. We are tearing the veil. We are moving past the confusion and into the midnight protocol. Because once you realize you aren't crazy, you become dangerous to the status quo. You become a transmitter. But there's a catch. Accessing this power isn't about wishing it into existence. It requires a very specific 3-step gate system that most people fail because they lack the discipline. You've identified the symptoms, but are you ready to handle the cure? Because as we move into the next phase, I'm going to show you exactly how to pass through the 3 gates of recognition, validation, and transmission. and why tonight. At exactly 11:47 p.m., your midnight window is the only time the third gate will actually swing open. So, you've identified the symptoms. You've realized that the crazy feeling was actually your spirit trying to breathe under the weight of a world that doesn't want you awake. But now comes the part that separates the curious from the chosen. We are entering the Midnight Protocol. This isn't spiritual fluff. This is a three-gate security system designed to verify your identity and grant you access to the files we discussed earlier. Most people in the self-help or New Age circles in America spend their whole lives banging on the first gate, never realizing that there are two more locks they haven't even touched. Gate 1 is the recognition gate. This is where you stop dismissing the coincidences as random noise and start treating them like encrypted intelligence. Your soul doesn't speak English or Spanish. It speaks in frequency. It uses numbers, gut feelings, and strangely timed encounters to get your attention. But here's the trick. Your frequency isn't the same as everyone else's. While some people see 1111, you might be the person who keeps seeing 444 on mile markers while driving through the deserts of Arizona. Or perhaps you keep hearing a specific, obscure song from the 90s every time you're about to make a big decision. To pass through Gate 1, you have to acknowledge the signal. Within the next 48 hours, the universe is going to send you 3 pings, specific, undeniable signs tailored just for you. When they hit, don't just think about them, speak it out loud. Say, I see you. I recognize the transmission. That verbal declaration is the voice print that turns the first key. Once you're through, you hit Gate 2, the validation gate. This is where things get real. Because let's be honest, not every voice in your head is divine. Some are just your own anxiety, and some are interference meant to lead you into a ditch. In a culture like ours, where everyone is chasing the next manifestation trend, you need a filter. A real validated sign from the high-frequency realm will always do 3 things. It will bring a sense of deep, steady peace, even if the message itself is terrifying. It will never contradict the fundamental laws of love and truth, and it will push you toward your edge. If a sign makes you feel comfortable and complacent, it's probably just your ego talking. But if it makes your hands shake while simultaneously making your soul say, finally, then you've reached the threshold of Gate 3. Gate 3 is the transmission gate, and this is why you are here tonight. This gate doesn't stay open. It's a port window that only aligns during specific spiritual hours, what we call the midnight portal. I'm not talking about a metaphorical midnight. I'm talking about that heavy, silent window between 12:00 a.m. and 3:00 a.m., when the hustle of the American economy finally goes quiet and the veil between dimensions becomes as thin as a veil of mist. This is why you've been waking up at 2:47 a.m. with your heart racing. It's not a sleep disorder. It's your spirit realizing the link is active and trying to wake up your body to receive the data. Tonight at 11:47 p.m., exactly 13 minutes before the new day begins, you are going to stand at that mental door and perform the protocol I've given you. But I have to give you a combat briefing before you step through, because the second you decide to stop being a victim and start being a transmitter, the opposition is going to notice. In the military, the moment you turn on a high-powered radar, you become a target for the enemy's anti-radiation missiles. Spiritual warfare works the same way. The moment you commit to this 40-day activation, you will be hit with what I call the 7 forms of strategic attack. They aren't random, they are a playbook designed to shut you down before you reach full power. The first one is the displacement attack. You'll feel a sudden frantic urge to quit your job, end your relationship, or move across the country not because of peace, but because of pressure. The enemy wants to move you out of the impact zone before your blessing arrives. The second is the identity scramble, where you suddenly feel like an imposter, a fraud who made it all up. The third is the substitute blessing, the most dangerous one. This is when a good opportunity shows up to distract you from the great assignment. It's the almost right job or the almost right partner that would keep you busy enough to miss your destiny. You are going to face at least 3 of these in the next week. You might be in a board meeting in Chicago or a grocery line in Florida when the manufactured crisis hits a sudden, loud emergency that demands all your energy but has 0 long-term importance. It's a smokescreen. Your job is to stand fast, recognize the attack, name it, and refuse to move. Because the fact that the opposition is throwing the kitchen sink at you is the ultimate validation that your midnight protocol worked. They don't attack empty vaults. They only attack the ones holding the gold. You've been a receiver for a long time, collecting knowledge, watching videos, waiting for a sign. But tonight, that season ends. We are shifting from receiver mode to transmitter mode. You aren't just going to learn the truth. You are going to become the truth. Your very presence is about to become a frequency jammer for the chaos around you. But to hold that frequency, you need to know what happens when the first week of your 40-day journey hits, and how to survive the betrayal echo that always comes right before the breakthrough. The weight of what's coming is immense. And as we move into the final segment, I'm going to give you the exact 40-day roadmap, the week-by-week breakdown of what to expect as your old life dissolves and your true assignment finally takes its seat on the throne of your reality. Stay focused, because we are about to seal this activation. And once we do, there is no turning back to the person you were 10 minutes ago. We have reached the final threshold. Everything we've discussed, the shattered seals, the pre-birth blueprints, the spiritual gaslighting, and the midnight gates has been leading to this exact moment of deployment. You are no longer just a spectator watching a video in your living room in Columbus or scrolling through your phone in a diner in Nashville. You are now being shifted from receiver mode to transmitter mode. This is where your presence becomes the message. Most people think they need a stage, a microphone, or a massive social media following to change the world, but they don't understand the physics of the spirit. A true transmitter doesn't broadcast through words, they broadcast through frequency. Think of a teacher I'll call Sarah. She lived in a high-stress suburb of Boston, working in a chaotic environment where everyone was constantly at each other's throats. She didn't preach. She didn't hand out pamphlets. She simply committed to the 40-day protocol I'm about to give you. One morning, she walked into a room where a massive argument was breaking out. She didn't say a word. She just stood there, holding her internal frequency of peace. Within 90 seconds, the room went silent. The tension didn't just fade, it evaporated. One of her co-workers literally burst into tears and confessed a secret burden they'd been carrying for 5 years. That is the power of a transmitter. You are becoming a walking portal, a human lighthouse whose very shadow can recalibrate the broken energy in a room. But to walk in this authority, you need your 40-day roadmap. In the Bible, 40 days is the universal cycle for transformation from Noah's flood to the spies in Canaan to the wilderness testing. Your cycle starts tonight. And here is what the American chosen one can expect. Week 1 is activation week. This is the honeymoon phase. Your dreams are going to become IMAX level vivid. You'll see synchronicities everywhere on billboards, license plates, and digital clocks. Don't try to decode them all, just document them. Keep a notebook on your nightstand. Week 2 is testing week. This is where the opposition shows up. One of the 7 forms of attack we discussed, likely the displacement or the identity scramble, will hit. You'll feel like quitting. You'll think, I must have imagined all of this. This is the test of your spiritual grit. Stand fast. Week 3 is clarity week. The fog lifts. Your specific assignment, not just your general purpose, but the actual move you are supposed to make, will become crystal clear. It will be so simple it might scare you. Week 4 is connection week. This is when your team starts to manifest. You'll get a random LinkedIn message, a call from an old friend you haven't spoken to in a decade, or a chance meeting at a gym in Denver. These are your destiny helpers. Week 5 is acceleration week. Things move fast. Resources you've been waiting on for 3 years will suddenly clear in 3 days. Doors that were welded shut will swing open. It will feel overwhelming. Breathe through it. Week 6 is commissioning. You will receive a final, clear directive, a go signal. And when you take that action, your old life will officially become a memory. However, I must be honest with you about the cost. In America, we love the idea of success, but we hate the reality of loneliness. As you step into this 40-day acceleration, you are going to outgrow people, not because you're better than them, but because you are no longer on their channel. You'll find that the conversations that used to fulfill you now feel like sandpaper on your soul. The places you used to hang out in Miami or Chicago will start to feel restrictive. You are in the hallway, the space between who you were and who you are becoming. Most people panic in the hallway because it's empty, and they run back to the crowded room of their past. Don't go back. The hallway is where your new operating system is being installed. If you feel lonely, it's because you are being recalibrated. To anchor this, you must implement the 5 integration actions starting tomorrow morning. First, the morning frequency declaration. The moment you wake up, before you check a single notification, declare your identity. Second, the noon recalibration pause for 90 seconds at midday to check your alignment. Third, the evening documentation review, your pings from the universe. Fourth, the weekly pattern review. Find the thread God is weaving through your days. And fifth, the anchor object. Find something you touch every day, your car keys or a specific ring, and let it remind you, I am a transmitter. We are now ready to seal this. If you are driving, pull over when it's safe. Nu ban dango nya. Heitim mot kom jan inting. This is the activation ceremony. I am going to speak these words into your spirit, and I want you to receive them not as a speech, but as a legal decree in the courts of heaven. In the name of the Most High, I declare the witness protection program for this chosen one is officially over. I break the spirit of spiritual gaslighting that has held you in a loop of self-doubt. I seal the Midnight Protocol into your DNA. I declare that every resource, every connection, and every dollar needed for your assignment is now released from the celestial vaults and is manifesting in your American reality. I bind the substitute blessing and the manufactured crisis from your path. You are no longer a victim of your history. You are the architect of your destiny. Within 7 days, you will receive your first checkpoint. Within 40 days, you will not recognize the person you used to be. Heaven is waiting for your response. Are you ready to be misunderstood by the world so you can be used by the divine? Are you ready to let the old you die so the transmitter can be born in your mind? With everything you have, say yes. That yes was heard in the highest realms. The transmission is complete. The seal is permanent. You are no longer waiting for your life to begin. You are now deployed. Walk out of this video and into your mission. Do not go back to normal. Normal is a prison, and you have just been handed the keys. The broadcast is over, but your story has just hit the record button. The transition is now complete. As we wrap up this transmission, remember that you are no longer the person who clicked on this video 40 minutes ago. You have moved from the shadows of confusion into the light of commissioning. The core meaning of this journey is simple yet profound. Your struggle was never a sign of your absence from God's plan. It was the evidence of your inclusion in it. In the American landscape, we are taught to measure success by speed and visibility, but the Spirit measures success by depth and endurance. You were hidden because you were precious. You were tested because you were powerful. And you were silenced so that when you finally spoke, you would speak with the authority of someone who has conquered the dark. The lesson for you tonight is to trust your frequency over your feelings. Your feelings will tell you that you're alone in that apartment or that your dreams are too big for your zip code. But your frequency, that steady, electric knowing in your gut, knows that you are part of a global network of chosen ones being activated right now to heal a fractured world. Don't look for validation from people who are still asleep. Look for it in the synchronicities, the midnight whispers, and the 40-day breakthroughs that are about to unfold. You are a transmitter. You are a pattern breaker. You are the bridge. Now go forth and broadcast the light. If this message resonated with your spirit and you feel the activation happening right now, comment 9 to signal your readiness to the universe. If you feel this content didn't quite hit the mark for you, or you're looking for something different, comment 0. I value your honesty, and it helps me refine these transmissions to serve you better. Or simply leave a comment sharing your own story. We are a community, and your perspective is a vital piece of the puzzle. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this channel. It's more than just a button. It's a way to stay connected to this high-frequency tribe, and it gives me the fuel to keep bringing these emergency broadcasts to those who need them most.